This is Michael with Go Be Strong, and this is the fourth video in section 2 of Understanding Our Strengths Profile. This video is titled Clifton Strengths 34 Report. The main idea here is that it will be our first look at the full list of all 34 strengths. And we're going to see that the bottom and middle strengths are present and managed, but not built. Let's go. In your materials, you'll get a report called Clifton Strengths 34 Report. And remember, we're trying to build a vocabulary, words with specific meanings that we can all share. We did some previous exercises, but those were based on the standard definitions of the vocabulary. So there's a standard definition for each and every strength. In this report, we start to see that it's more personalized, and that the dominant themes are described with influences of other dominant themes included. So for instance, if you've got activator and ideation, you're going to get a certain description that talks about taking the creativity and putting it, creative ideas that you've got and putting them into action. Where if you've got activator and, let's say, command, you're going to see that your definition of activator is going to be more focused on taking action and making decisions. So it's the difference there because it's influenced by your other dominant themes. Therefore, my theme description is different from yours because different dominant strengths are influencing each one. So you won't find identical ones. So here's a view of what the 34 report looks like. You'll see on the left-hand side, we've got strengthen. In bold are your top 5. We talk about those frequently. But the best part of this report is it shows the next 5. It shows 6 through 10. And those are really your dominant strengths. Then the other 24 are labeled navigate. And they're ranked in order. So a lot of, let's say, 11 through 25 or so are there. They are sort of supporting. And the balance then are really your least helpful strengths. There's also a color coding that goes on here, and they're put into different groupings of executing, influencing, relationship building, and strategic thinking. You'll start to see those colors and those categories show up in further sessions that we'll be doing. All right, so let's kind of cave in and satisfy our curiosity and look at the bottom of the list. In my case, my number 32 is competition, way down the list for me. Now, being competitive is rarely helpful to me. That's what this says. I don't get energy, if you will, to succeed by being competitive. It doesn't mean that I don't love baseball or trivia night, which I do, okay? But it does mean that I'm not driven to be number one. So I go into playing a game and I never feel bad if I lose. It's more about the experience, and I'm not driven to win by competition. Now, I could still end up and have as the number one salesperson on a sales team, but I will do it using my strategic, maybe my ideation, maybe my positivity and responsibility. I will leverage other talents to become a number one salesperson. Because in a sales contest, it's not the competition that drives me, it's these other strengths that make me successful. So you also might see a theme in your bottom 5 or 10 and think, oh no, for instance, my weakest theme is harmony. And I particularly see myself as somebody that likes to have other people get along and likes to see people, working together and being happy. I'm very strong on having a family that gets along and helps each other. So I struggle with the idea that harmony is at the bottom because I just don't like antagonism and confrontation and things like that. But it can be explained when you look at my top 5, where I have belief and connectedness and positivity and responsibility, all in my top 10. My strengths of believing in doing what is right and that we are all connected to each other, that probably drew points away in the assessment from harmony. And there's a differentiation to be understood here. Harmony says, let's do what works best. Belief says, I want to do what matters most. So we still find success, we still accomplish things, but my belief and my positivity and my connectedness all kind of combine to get me to something to operate my life in a way that makes sense. And the fact that harmony's at the bottom of my list, you can see where it just doesn't matter as much. So then there's this part that I call the muddled middle. It's say 11 to 20 or 25. These are themes that are sort of or sometimes describe you. They are in fact strengths, but they're only supporting. They're not present all the time. They're not particularly driving you. You can draw on them from time to time, but they really play a lesser role in who you are. So think of them as supporting themes, not dominant themes. And there's nothing wrong with them, but investing in them will not help you much because they're not as natural in your life. So putting something into them won't get you the same leverage, the same increase in success that you're looking for. You will see some in there that you're perhaps envious about. So for me, achiever at number 23 is one I really wish was higher, but I know that I'm wired the way I'm wired. So you need to use your true strengths then to get the outcome that you want. So in the case of me, where I just don't have much at achiever, I know that I can use strategic and ideation and responsibility, again, all three are in my top 10, to help me to finish the tasks that need completion. So we really want to stay focused on the top, on the dominant ones. That's mostly the top 10 or so. We can't achieve great success by fixing, or even worse, fixating on our weaknesses. If we're going to improve and grow, we have to invest in what we do best. Fill in the gaps with other team members, friends, consultants, and others. So if there's, again, I love being on teams where there's somebody that's got deliberative, where there's somebody that's got achiever, right? They're going to help us get to good answers, and they're going to help us finish projects that we start. I've got ideation and activation. I can get lots of things going, but I need teammates and friends and consultants that have these other strengths to make sure that at the end of the day, we've done something productive. And of course, just to reiterate, the key is to focus on our dominant talents. So in summary, we got a chance to see our bottom strengths, and there's no mysteries there. We get a chance to view our middle or supporting strengths, and we understand their role. We draw on them from time to time, but they're not the place where we want to do most of the investment. And we viewed numbers 6 through 10, and we now know that they're also dominant strengths. In the next video, we're going to have a theme called Focus on Dominant Themes. And until then, I want you to think about what will happen when we think about what is right with people rather than fixating on what is wrong with them. Until then, go be strong.